Good morning, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Green. We are getting an early start here to keep you up to date on what's happening in California right now. At least 4 people, including a gunman and a 6-year-old boy, are dead after chaos broke out at a garlic festival in Gilroy, California. Another 15 people are injured and are being treated at hospitals in the San Francisco Bay Area. So this all happened at the Gilroy Garlic Festival. Gilroy is about 80 miles southeast of San Francisco. Police shot the gunman dead really within minutes, but a search is underway for a possible accomplice. At least one of those killed is a 6-year-old boy. There is no word yet on a possible motive, but some witnesses say that the gunman appeared from behind a stage and then fired randomly. So we want to bring in Paul Viollis. Paul is a law enforcement and security analyst for CBS News. He's also the host of Security Matters on CBS News Radio. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, these are the times that we call you up and ask you to kind of, walk us through this sort of thing. We know a little bit about the shooting here in Gilroy. We know that it appears as if the gunman came through a back fence and may have actually cut the fence open. Based on the information that we have so far, what are your first impressions of the shooting?
Good morning, Anne-Marie. First of all, we need to understand that the manner in which that this individual entered what is now crime scene, or what is described also as the world's greatest summer food festival, shows clear intent. The police chief, Smikey, was very clear when he was describing the manner in which the individual, they feel, gained access by cutting a hole through a fence. It's also described that he was armed with a long gun, a rifle. And several witnesses so far, from what I'm told, have described pauses in shooting, which would describe also reloading, again, going back to the intent. So when we look at this, and Anne-Marie, we both have covered a number of these over the years, active shooters have a variety of pedigrees. This one clearly looks like it's going to be focused on someone that is local, someone with anger focused at the community, or possibly someone that may have been involved with this festival in the past.
Well, it's funny you would say that, because a witness told our San Francisco station, KPIX, that in the middle of this, he was able to ask the gunman why he was doing this. The gunman actually answered, according to this witness, he said because he was angry.
Yes.
I guess that's no surprise.
That would definitely spell out. And again, right now, too, Anne-Marie, what we need to focus on is the fact that police have a possible second shooter. Now, what does that mean as we're looking at this unfold? It means that, one, granted, Gilroy police did a phenomenal job at expeditiously mitigating what could have been far worse than the tragedy we're looking at now. But what it also means is that police are now preparing for what may be a possible criminal case if there was a second shooter and if they capture them. It also spells out a different angle in the investigation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, what I wanted to say is that police said that they're looking for an accomplice, not necessarily a second shooter. Witnesses felt like there might have been somebody else there who was assisting the gunman.
Right,
I don't know if
and
that makes a difference.
Be the same thing. That's going to be the same thing as they move forward in any kind of criminal case. If someone were to have helped or facilitated this particular incident, that individual would be charged the same way as a primary shooter. Now, that's going to alter a little bit as far as the investigative process. Clearly, we know that police and the legal side of the police department and the local prosecutor's offices, police are going to move expeditiously to search warrants for the shooter's home, vehicle, devices like cell phone, computers, etc., and phone records. But right now, being that there could be someone else involved, this is when they're going to study closed-circuit television camera footage. And in hopes that, right now, I can tell you, in hopes that they have some type of AI or artificial intelligence working in concert with those cameras, which would clearly expedite the investigation.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to go. The police chief was asked whether or not there were security cameras set up at the festival. He said no. It looks like the gunman at least went through sort of the back area where there's a back gate, had to go over a creek because it's sort of bordered by water, and then break into this gate to actually get into the compound. But there was a lot of security there. the area was enclosed. The front gate had bags were being checked. As I understand it, there were metal detectors as well, and obviously police working the festival. Paul, I can't think of a better way to secure a festival. It seems like the organizers were doing everything right.
There's no question about that, Anne-Marie. And all of our viewers need to understand, this is definitely not going to be on the organizers. This is a prime example of an individual that was clearly intent on committing mass murder. There's no question about that from what we can see already. And as more unfolds, we're going to see, I'm sure that's going to further validate itself. What it does say, though, is it speaks to the overt intent of this individual and his drive to be able to commit this heinous act. Now, what we do know is when we have events like this in the United States, we ensure access control, meaning we try to have a hard perimeter, which they did, which was spent. They look and search for bags, which they did, which was the right thing. But if an individual is like this, is clearly intent on committing this kind of act, then they will try to breach that outer perimeter. This was not foreseeable as it would pertain to what standard procedure security protocols are for protecting a special event like this.
So, back to this idea of a possible accomplice. So this is coming from witnesses in the middle of this chaos. I know that police have to sort of follow up on every lead that they get, whatever witnesses say. Is there a possibility, though, that in the midst of all of that chaos, witnesses thought they saw something and it really wasn't what it turned out to be? I'm only asking that, and you're the expert in this area, because often when there are more than one people participating in a shooting like this, there are multiple shooters. I can't really recall a time when there was a shooter and then an additional person who was just sort of standing by.
Right, and you know what, Anne-Marie, a very poignant question, and the reason that is I'm coming on year 40 in this business, and I can tell you unequivocally, in working a crime scene, you have witnesses that will see things diametrically different, and there's no question about that. You can see, and it's in a description ranging from what the shooter or the subject looked like, to what they were wearing, to how tall they were, to how much they weighed, to the color of their skin. It's going to vary. It's clearly possible, based on the chaos, that there was an individual relatively close to the shooter at one point in time, and two or three people looked up and got the impression that they may have been together. It could be that someone held something in their hand like a cell phone, and someone thought that they were actually holding a gun. There could be a variety of things. This really goes back to the manner in which police will now have to investigate this in the hopes that there's some type of electronic evidence that will help them verify this.
Well, I tell you, Paul, it's always good to talk to you and get a little bit of clarity from you and perspective. Hopefully we'll get to speak to you throughout the day. For now, we're going to continue our coverage. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Emily.